Hello there. Can everybody hear me? I can't
Gotcha,
hear
Alan.
everybody.
Yes, Alan.
Hey, there we are.
I can hear you, Alan. Yep.
Last time. Better than last time.
Well, I don't know. We can hear you. So,
That could be bad.
yeah, just saying.
Are you ready, John? Dr. Pitto?
I'm as ready as could be under the circumstances. I know we had some terrible news today.
Yeah, I think it's been a very difficult day for, I think,
Mhm.
for a lot of us. And
Mhm.
I'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the whole commission.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, but it's been one heck of a day for a number of reasons. But we have Chris, we have B, we have Chris White, Justin, Jeff. So are we going to have a convene the meeting of the application review committee, John?
Yeah, I understand. Well, Mr. Hiltz is the agent for 7 Sylvester Court. I'm not sure if he's attending or not.
There is someone with their hand up. Amelia.
I think that person, Diane Larachella had emailed me earlier. She's calling in from her phone, so she let me know that she'd be raising her hand for public comment. So I believe that's what that's for.
Public comment or to discuss the pre-application? Is that a Diane Lankowski?
Diane Larachella, and then there are a couple other people who'd indicated they'd like to speak during public comment.
No, with regard to the application. Is that referring to the applications?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm sorry. She didn't state in the email what she was going to be just talking about during public comment.
Oh, okay. No, I was referring to the presence of Mr. Hiltz, who is the agent for 17 Sylvester Court. If you wanted to discuss that application.
John, why don't we move ahead to the number 2, the Sheffield Island seawall, and see if John joins us? Would that make sense?
Oh, we can do that. And I don't mind. The commission has no problem on shifting the arrangement of the agenda. That's item number 2. We could certainly do that. So I think
let's do item number 2.
I think Mr. Tony is here, representing Rhode Island. And Amelia, if you can, all right. Well, if you want to start, you want to start the meeting, Alan? With the Pledge of Allegiance?
We'll do that after the committee meeting,
We're going to start
application review meeting.
Okay, all right.
Alan, I do want to say, so the Harbor Management Commission meeting was noticed to start at 6 p.m. So technically we didn't legally notice that there's an application review committee meeting first.
Let's see. Hey. Very well. Well, we'll start the meeting and we'll get to the application review committee in just a few moments then. Call the meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. Answer present. Matt Gifford. Matt.
Present.
Laurie Jones.
Present.
Ellen Kibbe, present. Jeff Mangles.
Present.
Chris McDonald.
Present.
Mike Matthews. Dr. Pinto.
Present.
Christopher White.
Present.
Very good, thank you. And we do have a quorum, so good for us. So moving along, is there any public comment?
Diane Larachella has her hand raised, or I believe that's her phone number, so I'll allow her to speak.
Thank you. Good evening, Lorianne.
Good evening, Chairman Kibbe and the Harbor Commission. Can you hear me?
I can we all?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much. I'm still having problems with my connection with Zoom and the city. I don't have an onboard IT. So thank you for allowing me to raise my hand on my phone, my smartphone. Anyway, tonight, my name is Diane Lauricella, and I am calling tonight to comment very briefly on two items on your agenda. Item 5E, relating to the DEEP's comments on the POCD amendment of the industrial waterfront land use study, and 5F, having to do with the review and provide comment on proposals that affect the Norwalk River. They're kind of mutually mutual. And first, I wanted to state that while I absolutely applaud the letter that you sent to the city, I do believe that there is a need for your constituents, your stakeholders, to weigh in as well. This commission holds many people that have decades of experience on the harbor. You all know people that either own marinas, own boats, and I think unless the Planning and Zoning Commission hears from them next Wednesday, October 4th at 6 o'clock, where they're continuing, limited, but they are continuing public hearing on this study, they need to hear from more people, including those of you that, like Mr. McDonald, spoke as a resident as well. I wanted to ask that you consider creating a separate letter, since this commission decided not to include the item that I had written you about last month, related to the misinformation and falsehoods related to contaminated sites within the study area of the industrial waterfront study. Why I would like that request, because many of you know of several sites. I'm in the process of making sure that the letter from the Water Quality Committee becomes recognized as a technical reference, because as you know, our fearless leader, Mr. Schneerlein, has been very ill and hospitalized until just, I guess, today or yesterday. So I will lay out more information, but development of a site, as well as development of a site, can be hampered by discovery of contamination. The reason why I felt it was important for the city to, and this commission, to mention the existence of known and unknown contaminated properties, legacy properties, is because we all have that vested interest in life, limb, quality of life, health of people, as well as wildlife and our shellfish industry. So I do think within your harbor management plan, where there is specifically discussion and reference to public health and safety, and this commission has decades of interest and good projects related to water quality, I think it behooves this commission to put together, preferably before next Wednesday, but definitely as soon as possible, a separate letter that addresses the issues related to contaminated sites. Looking at 4F, where you're going to talk about a review and provide comment on proposals and applications that affect the Norwalk River and its watershed. Most of you on this commission do not know that I was the founding president of the Norwalk River Watershed Association, and I am a former harbor commissioner with Bill Collins in that first group. And I absolutely believe that it is in your interest to make sure that you have guidance and knowledge from people like myself, who have 40 years in the hazardous materials and management industry, and others in the state and the federal government, so that when proposals come before you on these types of issues, that you can weigh in, because your voice does count. Your voice does count, and all of our other city government and agencies and staff need to understand that noting the potential or the existence of hazardous materials that could be toxic to water, to people, to wildlife is important to know upfront, not after they have to shut down an important economic development site because of the discovery of things that should have been known prior to the development. So I ask that you once again look at the email I sent you as a citizen, a resident, last month, and consider putting together a separate letter that I would be happy to suggest. If you consider doing a separate letter, I will send you some thoughts about additional sites. They are in existence, and it is not just at Water Street area. It's along the Upper Harbor, above I-95 and below I-95. We have an industrial legacy. We can't run from it. We should address it head on, help the private sector with grants that the federal government gives out, and also acknowledge that the existence is there so that we can prepare so that we reduce the chance of pollution and health threats. Thank you for letting me speak tonight, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much, Diane. Do you have any other,
Yes, we have a few. Next is Jeff Nagelkerke, and please correct me if I said your name wrong, Jeff.
That is correct. Can you hear me?
yes, welcome, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. I see you have a long agenda. I'll be very brief. This is regarding the Marina Docks project. I'm a mooring field user, and in two things. One, we have some concerns, myself and some other mooring users, with regards to that project that I wanted to express. And secondly, maybe going forward, if we could have a little bit more status or find a way to do more public transparency on this topic. So I'm just going to quickly read a statement. So in interest of brevity, although it's not on tonight's agenda, I'd like to discuss touch on the Marina Docks upgrade issue discussed last year. Many of us, particularly in the mooring field and dinghy dock users, are eager to know the current status, especially regarding the South Dock. Presently, this serves as our touch and go space for quick stops, essential for safe loading and unloading of crew, gear, and fresh water. From the available public documents, it seems as though the initial design missed this touch and go feature, possibly to be replaced by additional slips. This concerns me, especially with the often lengthy permitting and funding processes. For clarity and community awareness, I propose the Harbor Commission offer regular updates on the Marina project. Updates could cover design changes, funding, permits, or even just to say no new developments have occurred. I realize the city, DPW, and Parks drive the project. However, the Harbor Commission, in my opinion, is best suited to representing the boating community's interest, giving the understanding of the complex dynamics at play with the federal anchorage, the state mooring field, and access to Vets Park. Thank you for considering this.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Chris, you have any comment on that? Chris McDonald?
Yeah. The only comment is I have no information. I haven't heard any update on that since it might be close to a year now. It might have been last fall. The last set of drawings I saw on that was the 60%, which I don't believe included a touch and go area. And now that I'm a mooring holder down there, and I think I've spoken with Jeff about this, I'm more aware of it. So I will follow up with Vanessa Valazares from DPW to see what the status of that design is.
Thank you, Chris. Jeff?
I missed some of that, but you're talking about the city marina in the East Norwalk Basin.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a discussion about that the other day. Apparently, the Corps of Engineers is still conducting some sort of evaluation of this because it affects the federal navigation project, and there is some bit of expansion. And when I asked Deep about it, I was told that they're still waiting to hear comments from the Corps of Engineers, and that has to do with this Section 408 permit that any work affecting a federal public works project requires a separate review and permit by the Corps of Engineers. And interestingly, a similar issue somewhat came up in Greenwich last month, or maybe it was 2 months ago, where the Corps reached out to the Harbor Management Commission and asked for this had to do with a private project that was in the setback to the federal anchorage in Greenwich Harbor. And the Corps said, since the Harbor Commission in Greenwich, and it's the same in Norwalk, is considered the local sponsor of the federal navigation project, the Harbor Commission's comments with respect to anything that affects the federal navigation project would be given great weight by the Corps of Engineers. So I've tried to reach out to the person at the Corps in charge of this, but I didn't have any success. I'll try again. But apparently that's what's the delay in this, with the Corps figuring out what to do. And you know, when we worked in the East Norwalk Basin, the purpose of the Harbor Management Plan, that it was understood that marina is permitted to be in the federal anchorage and could stay, with the understanding that it's open to all on equal terms, and the fees for residents and non-residents are the same.
Thank you, Jeff. I didn't mean to start a discussion on that, but I thought we could get some of the information out really quickly. So we have more public comment?
Yes, we have one more hand raised, Norwalk Cove.
Hi, good afternoon to the commission. My name is Mike Garvey from Norwalk Cove and Rex Marine. Just kind of wanted to echo what Diane said earlier about the letter. Applaud you guys for sending that out to the commission and your thoughts. Going along with what you said, and getting support from other marinas and marine-related businesses in and around the harbor. I wanted to see if you guys could send over a copy of that letter that was sent over to Planning and Zoning. And just if we could just take a look at it and provide our thoughts, and as we'd like to, stay involved in the process as well.
Very good. Amelia, do you have, can you handle that?
Yes, I can send that email. If you'd like to email me, I'm sorry, I removed permission to talk, but if you'd like to email me, my email is amelia.williams@norwalkct.gov. If you just email me, I can respond with a copy of the letter.
Thanks, Amelia. Thank you, Mike. Is that all?
Those were all the hands that were raised.
Wonderful. I'd just like to take a little break in the agenda and just say a couple words. There's some very good news I got today. Is Joe Schneerlein, the chair of the Mayor's Water Quality Committee, has been discharged from the hospital, and he's home doing well, and he's going to be in for 6 to 8 weeks of R&R to heal up and recover from his difficulty. So that's a blessing, and I'm just very pleased to report that. The sad part of the day is I received word from Bruce and a number of you that Dennis Santillo had passed away last night. And it's, again, Dennis is who don't know, is a long-term member of the Harbor Commission, lifetime Norwalker. Is his family here. I didn't know Dennis very well, but we'll be working toward putting together some kind of a remembrance for him, and open to suggestions offline to have how we might do that. But it was very sad news for, I think, all of us to get, because I really appreciate the work Dennis has done for the commission in my short time here with the Harbor Commission. Okay, that said, moving on, Laurie, minutes.
Okay, we have minutes from 3 meetings for approval tonight. Hopefully you guys have all gotten the latest sent yesterday and the day before. So first up is the Harbor Management Commission regular meeting from July 26th, 2023. Do we have a motion for approval?
I have a motion to approve the minutes of those meetings.
Second? Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any against? Okay, those are approved. The second set of minutes is the application review committee special meeting from August 21st. Motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second, okay.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then the third is our Harbor Management Commission regular meeting from August 23rd. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
And second,
Second that.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's it for the minutes.
Thank you very much, Laura. Do you have any report or comments?
Nope.
Any questions for
That's it.
Lori from other commissioners? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It gives me great pleasure to turn the handlebars over to Dr. Pinto for meeting of the application review committee.
We hope we can steer correctly here.
Oh, well, I know you can.
Amelia, do you, would you know if you contacted Mr. Hiltz with regard to that?
John Hiltz is here. I
John,
see him.
okay, great. All right, so we'll continue with our regularly scheduled agenda, which starts off with our first project is it's a pre-application for 17 Sylvester Court. The applicant is Diana Lepkowski, who proposes to construct a 4-foot by 73-foot piling supported timber pier with a 30-inch by 8-foot stair for access from the shoreline. I think Mr. Hiltz will explain that. And then the waterward end of the pier will connect to a 3-foot by 36-foot aluminum ramp, which leads to a 8-foot by 20-foot piling anchored timber floating dock for private recreational boating access. And Mr. Hiltz is the agent for the applicant, and Mr. Hiltz would like to discuss this project any further. It's a pre-application.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Thank you for your time. Yeah, basically, this is a proposed pier, ramp, and floating dock in an area that, you know, is basically it's an infill. There's adjacent piers, ramps, and floating docks of similar encroachment and size. The applicant, the stairway that you mentioned, they basically want to be able to get down onto the beach. There's if you look at the plan view, there's a stairway there, but it's basically through the neighbor's property. So they want to be able to have their own access without having to go across the neighbor's property. It's a narrow stairway at an angle, basically to keep it between. There's an area of riprap at the toe of the wall there, and then there's an area of tidal wetland vegetation kind of waterward of where the stairs would be. And we want to keep it narrow so there's still a passageway there for transiting along the shoreline. You know,
John, would you like me to display the plans here?
That'd be great, John. Thank you.
Amelia, do you have? Can I have access to?
Yes, you should be able to share.
Let me see here. Let's see. And share? How do I have to do? What do I have to do here, Amelia? Oh, here it is. I got it. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, here's your. I have your plans. Everybody see the plans here?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So the stairwell that is proposed that Mr. Hiltz is talking about is located down in this region here.
Exactly.
Which leads right down to the beach area. And then there's also a walkway here, access way here to from the property itself, correct?
There's, if you scroll down a little bit, John, you can see that there's some stairs kind of right at the property line there. And I guess I'm not clear, but I think historically what people have done is gone down the neighbor's steps. But and you can tell that
you talk any steps over here.
Yes, sir. And you can kind of tell by the, you know, the limits of the vegetation that people have been cutting through there, you know, as a result. And that's, you know, basically what they want to be able to do is
get down themselves and, avail themselves of being able to get along, to the water, to the beach portion of it without having to use their neighbor's steps.
I see. And then, of course, you have your pier here.
Yes, sir.
And then with the ramp here and
Yep.
the floating dock at this here with the floats. And of
Yep.
course,
Yep.
you have your dock extension at least extended 30 to 36 feet away from the neighbor's docks.
Yep.
All right. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to that? Now, as far as the construction is concerned, you intended to do onshore or?
No, this they can do it by barge, come in on the tide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, we have, again, certainly requirements for stationing of vessels during the construction process.
Yep.
Okay.
Not a problem.
And any of the commissioners have any additional comment? I see we can get a side view here. Let me see, I think it's here. This is what this would entail, I guess.
Yeah.
Or is any vessels going to be attached to that dock?
I don't know about that, John. It's a rental property. And I don't think that they, have a boat per se at this point. I think it's just, quite honestly, I think it's a real estate proposition. I mean, they're the only property over there without a pier, ramp, and floating dock.
And again, I guess this is your stairwell here.
Yeah, exactly.
So I got you.
They'll be open grade on the treads so that, the void shading impacts.
In this area here. Any of the commissioners have any other comments? Oh, yes.
I just had one comment, John. In terms of, it seems like a lot of the other neighbors have almost identical. Are they from the distance from shore about the same distance?
Yeah, I think actually go to the assessor's map there. That kind of gives you a good view of there you go.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what we're dealing with there.
So this dock is going to be probably, the end of the dock will probably be right about in this area here.
Exactly. It basically, you snap a line between the south side of the, northern float and the north side of the southern float. And that's where we come out to more or less.
You can see that.
Okay. So be right in line with Tony and the others right there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we can see it here too.
Yeah.
Here's the neighbor's dock here, neighbor's dock over here.
Yep.
Okay. Chairman Bardish.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Shellfish Commission did review it briefly, and as usual for a de novo pre-application, we recommended a site inspection, and Mr. Hiltz kindly agreed to that.
Right. And the usual concerns of the Shellfish Commission regarding scourling in the bottom of any dock extending on the substrate.
Correct, and any intertidal involvement of shellfish beds and or vegetation.
And in this area, there's no requirement for removal. No, there's no need for removal of the dock during storage.
It's a standard recommendation by the Shellfish Commission that ramps be pulled for winter storage.
Any other comments on this application?
John?
Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, just a comment and a question, I guess, but as you noticed that the setback from the extended littoral lines is less than what the harbor management plan supports.
From here,
it's 10 feet, yes. But I think if we agree that this can go forward to the application, we want to note that, but say there's a compelling reason because of the narrowness of the property and the existing docks that we don't object to the fact that it's less than 25 feet to the
right. Our requirements 25 feet from the littoral property line.
Right, exactly.
I think we want to uphold that, but make the comment here that there's a compelling reason that can't be achieved here, and it's not dissimilar to what the other docks are. They're not within. They're less than 25 feet too. And then John, have you talked about this with the neighbors yet?
I haven't done it yet, Jeff, but I mean, as you know, when we submit the DEP application, everybody within 500 feet of the property gets notified in addition to, the publication of the public notice in the paper.
So my thought would be that the commission would consider saying no objection to it moving forward to
Yes.
to the application, but reserving the right to review comments from the Shellfish Commission and provide additional information, and also noting that although it's less than the plan supported setback, have no objection in this instance because it's consistent with existing conditions.
Yes, I agree. Now you want to make a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Chris. So again, we have, no objection to the application moving forward. Again, with the the comment with regard to littoral property lines, for compelling reasons of not having the 25-foot setback, and then waiting for comments with regard to Shellfish Commission. All right, all those in favor? Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I can't see the whole. All right.
John, do you need a second?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought that was seconded. I'm sorry, Lori. Thank you, Lori. We have a second to that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposition? Abstentions? All right, so moved. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, John.
All right, good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Okay, John.
Take care.
All right, let me okay, now let me get settled here. Okay, so our next application is Sheffield Island Seawall. It's a COP. The Norfolk Seaport Association proposes to replace approximately 120 linear feet of a seawall on the project on the north side of Sheffield Island. Construction will involve replacement of 15-inch pressure-treated pine pilings to reinforce the vertical stacking of two courses of a 3x3 by 12 Gabion basket seawall for a total length of 152 feet. And as proposed, the materials are similar to those used in the previous 2013 permit on that property. I have Mr. Jerry Tony here from the Sheffield Island to perhaps review or answer any questions that we might have. I have, let me see here if I can have this up. Let me see here. Let me get my. Tony, do you want any of the is that visible, the seawall?
Yes, it is.
Is that still visible? Do you want any particular?
Can I speak, John?
Yes, please, Tony.
Yes, thank you very much. The photo that you actually look at, this S2 dated back in 13, is the last section of seawall that we put up back in this, obviously in 13, after a storm. So that was provided as an illustration of what the finished product will look like. There's obviously the architectural drawing, the 2S2. The actual finished.
This is what it's currently like now, Tony?
That's correct. That's the existing to the that which we replaced a number of years ago. The new one is going to look essentially identical to that. The same process, Gabion walls with the pilings in front of it. I thought I may have sent you some existings.
Yeah, let me see if I could pull those up, Tony. Let me see here. Let's see. I think you sent me these photos. Let me see that.
Similar. Again, that's finished product.
Okay.
Finish.
These are the previous. These are the photos. These are the previous.
That's the previous work that we completed. Yes. So,
and what you plan to do is carry out the similar project
Exactly right. Exactly the same thing. The pilings are disintegrated, and they took a pretty hard hit last year, and we're going to just pull out what's there. We could probably use most of the existing stone, excuse me, but we'll bring some additional rock and stone in to fill the gabion baskets. But it's a pretty simple process. Oh, excuse me. It's a pretty simple process. This 125 plus or minus feet is the last section of protective seawall that we need around the island. The work that the original was done originally when we acquired the island back in would have been late 80s, early 90s when they did the work is why the island is still there, secure, and the lighthouse is secure. They did a great job on that, and we've just continued that throughout. There's probably 1,000 plus feet on the backside of the island. As I said, over the last storm, I think it was Sandy or Irene, one of them, we experienced some issues, and we did this section, and so we're down to this last section. Kind of moves from our flagpole. There's actually a set of stairway steps that takes you from the land area onto the beach, and this will be part of it. We'll obviously rebuild those with that, and part of the sidewalk that goes up. But the real project, of course, is the gabion walls to protect the island and protect the lighthouse. That's really what they're doing.
I think this was a different perspective here. So is that correct? Yeah. So
That's correct. So
this area right in here is what is planned for.
Right. Well, you'll see the dark line with the stairs. There you go. Thank you, John. That's the existing, which we're going to replace. The wall that has the call out to the coastal jurisdictional line. That's actually the part that we finished the last time, which you just saw on the last plan. So this is all brand new, where your cursor is now.
Right.
And then if you move to the right, that's all going to be brand new there.
This here.
That's we have to replace. Correct.
All right. Does any of the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Tony? Well, certainly,
we got a hand up.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't see that hand. I am limited to my screen size here. Oh, Jeff, yes.
I would suggest for consideration that the commission could find this consistent with the harbor management plan, not just a statement of no objection, but
right, yes,
consistent with the plan, because the plan supports timely repair and maintenance of existing shore protection structures.
Right.
And that this repair, we believe, is necessary to help maintain continued beneficial use of the Lighthouse Park.
That's correct.
And then you might have a recommendation for best management practices during the construction to avoid any adverse impacts on environmental quality. But I think this is something, a proposal that you could consider as consistent with the plan, not just a no objection.
That's correct. Yeah, because we do have several sections in the plan comment with regard to securing the coastal resources. So certainly, that certainly would be in that recommendation that we will send.
Thank you.
I'm happy to make that motion.
All right. Thank you very much, Lori. All right. And we'd like to second that motion.
I'll second.
Right. Thank
Let
you,
Chris do it.
Or Chris. All right. Thank you, Chris. All right. Any further comment or anything on that? All right. I sort of figured after reading the application, Jerry, I knew this was going to be certainly no problem with that, because the commission certainly supports, as I pointed out in the harbor management plan. What you plan to do is certainly is consistent with some of our plans of encouraging reinforcement and certainly protecting the shoreline in such a manner that you propose. All right. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposition? Any abstentions? Great. So passed. All right. Thank you very much, Tony.
Dr. Pinto, thank you. Thank you to all the commissioners. Have a good evening.
You too now, Tony.
Bye.
Okay. All right. The next two applications are, the next application is a CAM application at 10 Harborview Avenue. I know we have two representatives here this evening to discuss that. The applicants, Mark and Pamela Hollis, propose to demolish an existing non-FEMA compliant residence and construct a new residence in the same general footprint that is compliant with flood zone regulations. Proposed project includes construction of a new family resident. Elevations, the first floor is going to be about 18 feet. There's a site grading, there's landscaping, driveway and modifications and drainage improvements on the property. And I think we have representatives from 410 Harborview.
Yes.
That. All right, Mr. Conti.
Yes, I'm John Conti on behalf of the applicant. Good evening. Thanks for hearing this matter. Is it possible, Dr. Pinto, that I can share my screen?
Yeah, let me see if I can stop sharing here and allow you to. Let's see. Trying to figure out how I do this here. Oh, here we go. Let me get out of this. Oh, wait a minute. 1 minute.
While you do that, again, my name is John Conti. I'm the civil engineer for the project, licensed engineer in the state of Connecticut, and Mr. Bill Earls is here too. He is the architect for the project. I'm just going to give
you have the floor. You have the screen, John.
Okay, great. I'm going to share my screen here. I think you all are probably familiar with this property. I think it was recently on your agenda to speak about the
right
dock here. Right. But as you said, Dr. Pinto, this is for in regards to the CAM application and a new house. So as you know, this is Harborview Avenue here. Neptune is up here, and the project site is right here. So just to sort of reiterate what you said, the existing house is in the VE zone. You can see this here is the delineating line between VE on the harbor side and AE. So the existing dwelling is fully in the VE zone at elevation about 12, and the VE flood elevation is about 15, so it's non-compliant. There's a full basement in this existing house. Harborview Avenue is down here. Norwalk Harbor is at the top of the page, and there's an existing asphalt driveway that serves the property. The proposed plan is to, as you said, build a new house that's on concrete piers above the 100 flood year elevation. I believe the lowest horizontal structural member is a foot above 15. So this is fully compliant with current FEMA regulations. And then there's a new proposed porous asphalt driveway serving the new building in the front of the property. There's no changes proposed to the concrete seawall or the sidewalk or the stairs back here. That's all to remain as is. And of course, there's new utilities serving this new parcel. We also have a sediment and erosion control plan. The property will be surrounded with silt fence. We have a tracking pad. We have stockpile area outside of the flood zone to make sure that there's no contaminants, runoff, silt during construction. I think those are the broad strokes of it. Bill and I are certainly happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, no, the commission is usually concerned with water runoff, et cetera, from impervious surfaces, and whether there's means to collect water runoff from roof areas. And
sure, I can speak more to that. Yeah. So this project has been submitted to DPW. I had a meeting with Mr. Gyron, I think is how you say his name there, at DPW. I don't think he has formally reviewed this yet, but I had a meeting with him prior to submitting it and talked about what my strategy was for mitigating the increase in impervious. So as I briefly said, the driveway currently is on this side of the parcel here, and it's just traditional impervious asphalt. The proposed driveway is going to be a porous asphalt with a crushed stone reservoir underneath it, and that will serve to collect and infiltrate runoff from, well, obviously the driveway and the majority of the new building area. The reservoir was beneath the driveway, was sized to infiltrate the groundwater runoff volume that's required by the City of Norwalk drainage manual. And it also serves to reduce peak flows for the up through the 100-year storm to mitigate any impacts of new impervious. So this porous driveway here is our sort of main mitigating factor on this project.
Are you showing the same? I don't know. Did you have? I'm not sure if whether are you illustrating on the present diagram that you have on the screen right now, or
yeah. Sorry, I'm sorry. Can you not see my
no
mouse hand here?
No.
What screen am I sharing? Let me stop and start again. I apologize if I'm not sharing the right thing.
You're sharing the aerial.
Oh, shoot. My apologies. I will be pointing to this.
Yeah, I was trying to follow what you were talking about on that.
I apologize.
Overview there.
I thought I was sharing this PDF. Can you see this PDF now?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize for that. This was the existing conditions I was talking about also. I don't think you had seen that either. So again, existing house in the VE zone. This line here delineates between AE and VE. This is the AE zone here. Harborview Avenue on this side, Norwalk Harbor on this side. This is the proposed structure. So still in the AE, still in the VE zone, but compliant now. And this right here is the proposed porous pavement driveway with the crushed stone reservoir. This side is a sediment and erosion control plan I was speaking about with anti-tracking pad, silt fence, stockpile area, etc.
All right, Jeff.
Just a question. Does the proposed project result in an increase in impervious surfaces?
Yes, it does. If you count I counted the porous driveway as impervious to sort of be more conservative. So if you do consider that impervious coverage, then yes, it's an increase. However, that increase is mitigated by the porous driveway and the crushed stone reservoir beneath it.
So would you say that the proposed project will result in a significant improvement in existing runoff conditions on the site, or is it just maintaining the status quo?
No, this definitely improves runoff conditions. So right now on site, there's no formal drainage system. Runoff from the roof and the driveway just flow to the gutter line of Harborview Avenue, and that's collected by the municipal stormwater system. So the proposed plan, as I said, runoff from the house and the driveway is collected by the porous pavement, infiltrated into a gravel reservoir, which reduces the total volume of runoff from the site. And it also reduces the peak flows leaving the site up through the 100-year storm event. So definitely this is an improvement in stormwater quality and a reduction in quality leaving the site.
And you're also lessening the vulnerability of the existing residential structure by raising it.
Absolutely. So yes, absolutely.
So I think with those, John, again, my suggestion for the commission is to find this consistent with the plan based on with the understanding based on the information provided by the applicant that it will result in a significant improvement in existing water quality and stormwater conditions on the site, and it will also reduce the vulnerability to flood hazards of the existing structure. And then with the normal condition of best management practices to protect the environmental quality in the harbor during construction.
During construction period, right? That's correct. Yeah, we usually have that standard comment. John Conti, any plans for a rain garden or any other kind of flow for protecting of effluent off the property?
No, there wasn't any plan currently to do a rain garden or anything like that. But certainly the function of the porous pavement is similar in that it collects runoff and infiltrates it. Okay. So yeah.
All right. No problem. All right. So I'd like to you can make a motion with regard to what was just presented. Again, making sure that the raising of the residence is above the floodplain and that there's a significant reduction in the water runoff, impervious surfaces, which is certainly reflect on water quality. And we can certainly make a recommendation that the application is consistent with the harbor management plan with those objections, with those comments in mind, along with best management practices during construction, especially that to protect any debris or anything running off or during the construction process that is going to affect the harbor, Nog Harbor. Anyone like to second that motion?
I'll second it.
I thank you, Lori or Chris. All right. Any other comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Abstentions? All right, so moved, and we'll get that letter out to you shortly, John, and with our comments.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on, we have the next CAM application is 2 Channel Avenue. And the applicant is Steven Silvestri, who proposes to raise an existing single-family resident and construct a new second-story addition, side porch, and rear deck to be floodplain compliant. The structure will be raised on piers with parking and storage below, and the first floor will be at an elevation of 16.3 feet. A modified driveway, site grading, and drainage improvements are also proposed. The runoff resulting from the proposed site improvements will be retained in an on-site retention system. The runoff from the portion of the house roof will be routed to 4 units. I believe I think I've read that correctly. 4 units of a Coltech C100 retention chambers, and the stormwater facilities maintenance plan, along with recommendation frequency of service, has been proposed. So that was certainly a little added surprise for us, because we oftentimes ask about that as well. What is your maintenance plan for that? So, and I guess, let's see, Mr. Silvestri is here to discuss that, perhaps?
Yes. Hi. Hi, Commission. Thank you. I'm also joined by my wife, as well as the contractor, Jordan Giles, this evening. But everything you stated is accurate. Really, our goal for this project is to be FEMA compliant. We've lived here for about 7 years, raising 2 children here. And before they get into the middle school, well, before both kids get through the middle school system and high school, we wanted to make sure this was the house we wanted to stay in. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Does anyone want to take a look at those plans? Any of the commissioners want to review those plans?
Might they be shared on the screen, John?
Yes, let me see here.
Hey, do we have a site plan on that, John?
Yeah, let me see if I can grab that up here.
I've got it up. If
Oh, you have it, Mr. Silvestri?
I do have the site plan.
Okay, yeah, you should be able to share your screen. Amelia, yeah.
Yep, you have permission, Steve, so you should be able to share it.
Okay, thank you. Let me know how we look.
That's fine with the yeah. Okay.
We're essentially raising on the same footprint, limited disruption to the soil. So we're lifting 6 feet to the height that you stated earlier. And I think you got everything else pretty accurate in terms of the 4 units on the Coltech, which you see here, the retention chambers.
I'm sorry, it's about 6 feet or 16 feet?
6 more feet.
6 more feet.
Oh, 6. Oh, 6. Oh, I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And then based on just the environmental analysis, it was concluded there'll be really no negative impact, limited disruption. We're staying on the same footprint, no work to the seawall. Seawall's in good shape. We're in an AE zone. Which is here. Runs across the property. If you can see my cursor.
Yes. And again, the Coltech system will certainly be a marked improvement of water runoff in that area. And like, as I pointed out, oftentimes when these Coltech systems are put in, we oftentimes don't hear whether there's going to be a recommendation for a maintenance plan, and you had already incorporated that in your application. Yes, Jeff.
I have a question. Perhaps the motion here would be the same as for the previous application.
That's going to be my suggestion.
Consistent with the plan for the reasons we talked about.
Yes.
But just for the homeowner, what triggers your project to achieve FEMA compliance? Is it just your desire to improve the structure, or is it triggered by some other condition that you're required to do this? You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I think I understand. We've lived through both Irene and Sandy, and a different residence in the same actually neighborhood. And we moved here kind of with this ultimate plan in mind before, as I said earlier, our kids get old. And we want to do some work to the house, and we're at some limitations here in terms of what we can do, because our previous owners have put some work into the house post flooding and post the rule of how much you could put into a house before it became FEMA compliant. We typically don't have any issues with any of nuisance flooding or any even Irene. I believe they were all right, but this will get us to full compliance and allow us to do a little bit of work to the house that we wanted to achieve.
I think I understand. It doesn't change the motion of the commission. I'm just curious as to what triggers the work to achieve FEMA compliance. I think I understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we can move forward with a motion, again, similar to the motion that we had for 10 Harborview Avenue. And that is going along with the fact that the house will be in FEMA compliance, along with the minimizing waterfront and water runoff, being maintained by this Coltech system, along with a maintenance plan for maintaining that facility, and best management practices during the construction process of the building. So I'd like to move forward with that application, that it is certainly consistent with the harbor management plan. If we can have a second, that matter.
Second that.
Okay. Mr. Gifford, and any other further comments, perhaps? All those in favor of the motion, please. Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any noes? All right. So moved. And Mr. Silvestri, we will get our comments out with regard to your application shortly.
Great. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. 2 more items on the application review is first is to discuss the DEP's comments regarding the modifications to the POCD to implement the waterfront industrial waterfront land use, and also Mr. Kleppin's rebuttal to the commission's letter to the planning and zoning that we sent on August 24th. Everyone received a copy of the DEP's comments regarding and had a chance to review that? They did make comment with regard to that's somewhat inconsistent with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act, and perhaps not as forceful as perhaps our letter was with regard to it being inconsistent with the harbor management plan. But nonetheless, there was certainly a little bit of pushback as far as the recommendations that were made by DEP for the POCD modifications, particularly with regard to it being in a flood zone. And the only other thing is that what I'm seeing now, as opposed to what letters the DEP had sent previously, as I did have a copy of a letter that Mr. Kleppin had sent to, not Mr. Kleppin, Mr. Thompson, Brian Thompson from DEEP, sent to New Haven during their preparation of one of their shorefront property development, and that it was a little bit more forceful with regard to their inconsistency with building in a floodplain, and the tone of that letter was completely different than the tone of the letter that was given currently. And apparently there seems to be a move with development, allowing development in a floodplain, as long as there are, what do they call those egress? What is it? The
dry egress.
Dry egress. So I guess this is sort of a new concept that you can move forward of having increasing population density in a floodplain area, as long as you meet certain standards of having a dry egress in order to comply with that. Well, any event, I don't know how far we can go with this. We did make a recommendation to the commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission, with regard to its inconsistency with the plan, with regard to increasing density in the floodplain, and decreasing certainly the amount of area that the industrial zone has with regard to placement of water dependent facilities. Anyway, anyone have any other comments on that? I don't. Alan. Yeah.
I think it's very important for all of us to comment as citizens, as well as harbor management commissioners. If we have feelings about this. I think the feeling I have about all of our commentary is to suggest what would make the plan better or make it more acceptable. We're not really good at offering suggestions always, but I think it's important to put out what would personally make it more appealing to us as commissioners.
Well,
as citizens, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think the more input they have, the better. And Chris spoke pretty eloquently at the hearing on the 20th. And I think it's important that, as a citizen, not representing the Harbor Commission, but I think it's important that we all do that if we have strong feelings about this rezoning project and how it affects the Marine Commercial District.
No, I understand it, but several years back, it seems as though that these plans were guided by sound resiliency planning and management, but now it seems to be guided by the increased development by the developers, not so much by building into a plan, preventing people from a harm, basically in a floodplain zone. So apparently that's now taking second tier to developing one's property value in view of what's going on. So I don't know how to balance that. I really don't.
Well, my take on this is that at this point, we've had our say on the industrial waterfront study and its incorporation of the POCD. But what really matters through all this at this point is the proposed zoning plan that is under review citywide. So I think at this point, we've had our say on that element. I think our focus at this point is to make formal comments on the proposed zoning about what's entailed in the marine commercial and the CD5W and in the CD4W zones, and about which properties are included in those zones. What we're lacking is what that plan actually entails. The version that was issued in March and was presented to us by Steve Kleppen in June. We pointed out a few inconsistencies with that, which they acknowledged and have said they're going to revise. And I'm talking specifically about the matrix of what uses are allowed in which zones. They have indicated that they will revise that. The way they speak of it now, they've revised down some of the height and at least the height parameters of 5W. But none of this has been, and I think they've actually approved this in some of the meetings, but there is no document that contains all of the proposed zoning requirements for these zones within our purview, within our consideration. So at this point, I think we should request from planning and zoning some kind of document, something that documents what is being proposed for CD5W and 4W, so that we can review it and give comments on it. Because what we have now is an out-of-date document and discussion in some meetings, but none of this is a reviewable set, a reviewable document, a reviewable plan. So that's what I would I suggest we request planning and zoning so that we can make our formal review and make formal comments as a commission about all this. You know, and then and then once things are proposed to be built in whatever comes out of all this, we'll have another bite at the apple then. You know, I mean, we'll have to review projects on a project by project basis. And hopefully we'll get comments in there that will you know, that will give us some base, you know, give us some basis for, you know, commenting on the bulk and the egress and all the other things that will have to be done correctly to do anything in any of those properties down on Water Street. Or
Chris,
yeah,
let me just interject there. I reached out to Brian Baker last week about getting that information prior to this meeting. Actually, a revised document showing the updated matrices of what's going to be allowed, what's not going to be allowed, what the lines of different zones are. And he responded that all of that information was not in their hands at this point. It's with their consultant being rejiggered. So I will reach out again to Brian and see where he is on getting that to us, because I'd hope we'd have something prior to tonight, but
yeah,
it wasn't going to happen. It's not going to
Alan,
happen.
I can see that Jessica
Yes,
has
sir.
her hand up. She may have information.
Jess.
Hey, everybody. Jess Bonishek here, the Chief of Economic Community Development. So just a couple of things regarding this. One, we'll get you what you need as of tomorrow. So there'll be no question about that, and you can review it. Second of all, there is a map that you guys, I think, are well aware of that proposes CD5W and some marine commercial. And of course, you should feel free to comment on that, on where that particular line is being drawn between CD5W and marine commercial. But the second thing is that there's something that's called a use table in the proposed zoning, and that use table has every single use along the left side of it, and it has all of the zoning types along the top. So if you were to picture the uses down the column, and at the top row is the actual zoning types, then you'll be able to find CD5W. And within CD5W, you'd actually be able to read down and see every single use that's associated to CD5W. But in addition to that, you'll be able to see every single use that's associated to marine commercial as well. And I think one of the conversations that we've had is not only is there the map that can be discussed, but in addition to that, there's also this use table that can also be discussed, where if you feel strongly that certain uses should be included in either CD5W or the marine commercial, that we would welcome you to be able to put that together and make recommendations to the Planning and Zoning Commission for consideration. And then in addition to that, Chris's comments on egress and setback and so on and so forth, there is a chapter in the proposed zoning that outlines CD5W as well as marine commercial, and all of those particulars, all of that nuanced data and the information is in that particular chapter. So, not only will we send you the full proposed zoning, it's very large, it's 400 pages plus, but we'll also tell you what pages CD5W is on, what page the land use table is on, or the use table is on. And in addition to that, we'll also send you an updated proposed map, but we'll get that to you tomorrow.
Jessica. Any questions? Jeff?
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 Might I say something, just to indulge me for a second? The matters concerning floodplain management are quite important to me for personal reasons that I won't go into. But I just want to say a few things. That was back, I believe it was in 1942, that a very prominent person made the statement that floods are acts of God, but flood losses are largely due to acts of man. And following that statement, up at that time, the federal government primarily dealt with floods through structural means, levees and dikes and dams. But this person I'm referring to, his work led to change in the federal approach to flooding. It dealt with adaptation and not just modifying the floods, but good decisions that concerning land use. And I think it's fair to say that the federal policy based on the Unified National Program for Floodplain Management is to guide development away from the concern is the impacts on people and property, but also government expenditures in terms of response and also building structural means to try to protect development. So I don't think that anybody would in positions of floodplain management and federal agencies would argue that it's federal policy to increase residential density in the coastal floodplain, because that just leads to more government expenditures, more people and property at risk. And now you have this emphasis on dealing with rising sea level and adapting to rising sea level and resiliency study. We used to call that many years ago hazard mitigation study. But and I believe the CERCA program, and the director confirmed this with me, that the purpose of resiliency studies is to accelerate the time of recovery following a flood event and to reduce the vulnerability of existing development. But it's not to create the conditions that would allow for additional development. That defeats the whole purpose of it. And we heard that the properties are so valuable that they must be developed. And it would be improper or unwise planning to not develop them. But those properties now in the marine commercial zone can be developed with residential development, and I believe the density is 21 units per acre. So I think what's being proposed is an increase in that. That's our understanding. But I think, you know, of course, the P&Z, they can adopt the change and increase the residential density in the coastal floodplain, but they can't argue that that's consistent with sound floodplain management policy as reflected in the Unified National Program for Floodplain Management or current objectives for resiliency planning. So that's my personal take on it, and I won't go into anything more.
Yeah, well,
thank you for the opportunity to say that.
That's basically my understanding too, Jeff. From I certainly read a number of the documents that have been put forward with regard to resiliency planning, and that is years ago it was predicated on sound judgment as far as, you know, not increasing the population density, but now it's being dictated by developers.
But Murray, it's not just Norwalk. If this approach was to be taken in every coastal city, to use resiliency planning as a tool or a mechanism to increase the development in the coastal floodplain, you'd be defeating the basic principles of floodplain management as accepted by the Interagency Task Force on Floodplain Management, which is the EPA and FEMA and the Corps of Engineers and the USGS and all of those federal agencies. That's just my perspective on it. And then the other thing to consider, I wanted to mention, and Alan mentioned that Joe has been in the hospital for over a week. So he wasn't able to complete the letter that reflected the motion that the Water Quality Committee made at its last meeting. And that motion was to support the findings and recommendations of the Harbor Management Commission, but also to support the comments that Diane mentioned about the need for the report to make clear that we do know that there are sites within the study area of the waterfront industrial study that are contaminated. And if those sites are proposed for development, there will be a prescribed remediation process that's so hopefully Joe will be able to send that letter before next week's hearing. And again, I guess if you want to address Diane's comments tonight, and she's asked the commission to also express support to the Planning and Zoning Commission to recommend that report properly address and make known the likelihood that there are not the likelihood, we know there are, and we've been involved in the remediation of them. But how you wish to address Diane's comments tonight, I think is something to still discuss.
Well, I was going to make the recommendation that we incorporate those comments that Diane had presented along with Joe's letter, because the Water Quality Committee is certainly a part of the Harbor Management Commission. So I could see certainly a joint letter going out under that venue.
You haven't seen Joe's letter yet, though, because he wasn't able to.
No, but I'm just saying that Diane's comments should be incorporated within that letter because it's based specifically on water quality and certainly potential runoff into the harbor, from potentially contaminated areas along the harbor. So I think our comments should be incorporated within that as well as a joint letter if necessary, rather than us writing a separate letter. it just seems to be,
However you wish to proceed, I just thought I'd raise that, because Diane did ask, make a
Yes.
request tonight.
yes, well, that's what I'm saying. My recommendation here would be to incorporate those comments within Mr. Schnierlein's letter that incorporate certainly the Harbor Management Commission as well as the Water Quality Committee. I don't know how everybody else feels with that one. Unless you want to write your own, a commission wants to write its own specific letter. Right. Any comment on that or any?
What would the letter be
David?
commenting on? I thought we were.
On Diane Lawrencella's review of contamination within the harbor, that the POCD should incorporate mentioning of possible contamination along the waterfront. And there are certainly designated areas within the Water Street district, such as the old Harrison Gann facility, along with other locations, especially around Oyster Bend, with regard to contamination in the landfill.
Well, so if the Water Quality Commission is sending that and is making that comment, we can certainly support that, but I don't know if we need to duplicate the work that they're doing.
That's my comment.
Yeah.
I said, we need to duplicate that effort along with perhaps making further comment and embellishing what Mr. Schnierlein might put together on those regards, because he did mention that as well.
He put together a pretty good letter, but you haven't seen that, but
I know.
It would be a question of whether you wish to express support for the Water Quality Committee's letter that not only supports the Harbor Commission's findings and recommendations, but also brings up the issue of contaminated sites in the study area and the need to address those properly.
The answer is yes. That's certainly my intent.
Yeah. Are there known sites or suspected sites at this point?
Well, that's a question. That's a good question, because the state has certainly some recognized certain areas, but we know that there are certainly existing areas that have not been made mention of.
Apparently they're not listed in anything that we planning and zoning is referenced.
That's correct, Alan. Yeah. So in other words, it's not what my net won't catch aren't fish. That's the concept here. But that's incorrect. So there are areas, and remember we were involved in that years ago when the old Pepco tanks were in that one particular area along Water Street, and we were involved in looking forward to having some of the soil remediated, and they plan to put the soil through a heating process. Rather than dredging and removing it. So there are certainly other areas around the harbor. There's around Platt Street, there's some tanks that are still buried in that area up there that are still there, and they're still leaching. And we have to very well protect that area as well, and bring attention to certainly oil spills that existed along the waterfront area where boats and everything had been moored. I'm sure there was some other types of contaminants that were there, perhaps, heavy metals, et cetera, that might be in the area, but those have not been clearly designated as such,
Mr. Kleppen made a nice statement, I thought, in response to one of Joe's comments, is that they understand that there are likely sites that are within, even though they weren't identified, that there are likely sites that are located within the study area, and that contamination would affect redevelopment of those sites, and before any redevelopment can be done, there would have to be proper remediation.
That's correct.
And the site that we're most familiar with is the Oyster Bend site, if you recall that.
That's correct.
The effort we put into that when the owner was proposing a remediation plan to cap the site. And we pointed out that he was not doing anything with respect to the bulkhead at the site, and we were concerned that what was leaking out of that site, including the old oil drums that we certainly were familiar with that were buried there.
They weren't just oil drums. That was,
Yeah, that was affecting the harbor. And when the EPA made the applicant required the applicant to do certain tests that would match pollutants, contaminants on that site with the contaminants in the harbor, if you recall, the applicant dropped the whole thing. So that site still has not been remediated.
That's correct. That's the area that I was referring to before. That's correct.
But the statement that Mr. Kleppen made, recognizing that there are likely sites, and if they're found, they have to be remediated to the proper standards. I thought that was anyway.
Sure.
Is that satisfactory, or is that not satisfactory to require them to be remediated? Does that solve the discussion?
Yeah, but it's not reflected in the report. That's the key thing. The report doesn't address it at all.
Right.
As yet.
The
We're waiting to
plan
see.
of the site.
Yeah, maybe as yet, Alan. That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
I think that's something we have to wait for. Well, what action do we want to take? I mean, I think it's certainly something we should do is support the Mayor's Water Quality Commission and what their report is, if we agree with it, which I think we probably do.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Once we see it, but that's a positive step. What else would we do?
Well, maybe we need to wait until we see what's coming tomorrow and have it take another look and then make our recommendation based on the latest updates. And additionally, we could ask Jessica if she would point out where in the report it does say that if contaminated areas are found, they will be remediated prior to development, or whatever the phrasing is, out of the 400 pages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know of any sites that are around King Industry. I know years ago they were having a nitrobenzene issue, but I don't think those no longer exist around that area. I think they've pretty much cleaned up their act in that area there, but I don't know what happens certainly along the waterfront, sort of north of that area. But
Jeff, I saw your hand up.
Well, zoning won't address, potential hazardous waste materials. I'm sure there's plenty of statutes and other parts of the law that require you to remediate, for a whole list of chemical presence, but that's not going to be in zoning. That's not being the zoning regulation. Whereas, and not everything has to be covered in every document. So,
Chris, let me ask you: all applications that come in and around the waterfront, are they required to do soil testing before they do any construction?
Well, you're certainly required to do that for dredging, right?
Correct, but I don't think an applicant is required to do that for building on land to test contaminated soil with a deal, especially around the waterfront. You expect maybe something like that to occur, because we do have a number of sites that do have certain types of chemicals that are present in the soil. But again, there's no on a routine basis any mention of doing measuring the soil or the contamination content of the soil prior to building on land.
Jessica,
you have to do that for any type of. If you're going to move soil, you have to test it, right?
Well, I'm not sure if it remains in the same area. I don't know if you have to test it. Only if you have to remove it to some other site. I'm not sure if that's the case.
Yeah, it's all about whether it's disturbed or not.
That's correct. That's why, for example, if you leave it in the harbor, you own it and you can stay there. So you have to test it. But if once you move it in that one area and put it into another location, like we had to do at several locations when we had to dispose of sediment in Norwalk Harbor, we had to test its compatibility with Western Long Island Sound soil as well.
Yeah, that has to be done out of hand. I have no familiarity with private development, but when the DOT does work, that whole, the DOT has several bin sites around, for the walk bridge, where everything that's removed, is first goes and put in bins for each location it's been excavated from until it's been tested, and then the test determines how and where it can be disposed of. So that, I don't know how the DOT, that's a self-imposed rule, if that's a DEP imposed rule, but that's, that is procedure for public construction. I don't know what private construction requires.
Yeah, I don't know either. I know, for example, if you do any kind of dredging and you want to dispose of on land, you have to do that soil testing from the water to make sure whatever is, or dewater it and desalinate it or whatever else you have to do before you can dispose of it on land. So they have their own separate rules and regulations for that, as well as separate rules and regulations for in-water disposal.
Right. When you have to have that on test before you can even go to
That's correct.
Deep
That's
core
correct.
dredging permit,
As we well learned, that's the Harbor Commission that are paying for our own soil testing with regard to compatibility with the Western Alliance Sound in one of our projects with dredging.
So gentlemen, we're kind of beating this to death here. Jess had her hand up, and I don't know if she is, still, yeah, she is. Jess,
Yeah,
do you wish to speak?
I was just going to comment that for private development, when there's a transaction that's done, a land transaction, normally what happens is due diligence period. And during that due diligence period, there's usually a phase 1 environmental or phase 2 environmental. And generally that comes up with, that would then bring up any contamination on the site. So, as Lori said, we're happy to do some follow-up and happy to loop back with this group on any information that we do find. I think that we're hesitant to put any properties that are on a list that are not, or included any properties on the waterfront study that are not included on a list that's an official list that basically dictates or tells us that the site is contaminated. And I think that's for obvious reasons, but, happy to dig into it more. I know that Diane Lorchella has worked with P&Z over the last number of months to be able to highlight that. And we've worked with her to be able to look at text that's actually in the waterfront study and revise some of that text so that she's more comfortable. And I know that we're not 100% of the way there yet, but we have been working with her to do that. So, just want to make it clear that that we will continue to look into this. We will continue to research and locate what we can as far as information goes. Again, we're not comfortable citing properties that in the waterfront study that are not already on a list that's pre-existing. And I think that's, again, for obvious reasons. But from a due diligence standpoint, we always recommend that a private property owner would do due diligence on the site in which they're purchasing, especially because of the cost of the cleanup and the cost of that site in particular. Obviously, if a site is dirty, the cost goes down significantly. So there's no reason to pay market value for a dirty site and not know it.
Jessica, can I ask you a question? Who puts this list together? Is that sort of like the definitive statement as far as contaminated areas? And that is, if an area is, well, we know, for example, there's certain areas that are contaminated, and because it's not on the list, does that make it now not contaminated? I know what you're saying, that there's no document stating that's been contaminated, but who puts this list together? Type thing, and then this has become the so-called Bible and what people follow.
Right. So Dr. Pinto, I know that the city is not the person who puts the list or the entity that puts the list together. I know that much. As far as who puts the list together, there are lists at the state level that I believe that we've been working with different organizations, different departments at the state level and being able to basically curate that list in some meaningful way. And Steve Kleppen would know more of what departments and what specific lists exist. He's been doing environmental assessments for a long time before he came to the city of Norwalk, but I know that the city is not the entity for that list and that we're looking for the state to be able to step up and give us a list so that we can point to that very official list in which there's been certification and that it's been deemed dirty by that state agency.
I see. Okay, interesting.
What would we like to do? My suggestion is, echoing what Lori said, is that we should see what comes back from planning and zoning tomorrow, and then just contact one another and see what we think how we should move forward. We should have another meeting. Just what, but I would like to have a chance to review what the next submission is from the planning and zoning and the tightened up documents to see where we are.
And see how we can coordinate that. Yeah, I agree with you, Alan, and coordinate that with, for example, Mr. Schnierlein's letter.
Right.
Okay, that's good. All right.
So I think it's a little bit of a wait and see, at least until tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. Jessica, you have your hands up again?
Yeah, Alan, sorry, Dr. Pinto, I just want to make sure that you guys saw the deep letter that came through too. Did Amelia share that with you?
The deep.
Yes. Okay, great. Okay, just wanted to make sure that you had eyes on that. Yeah.
Which deep letter was that, Jessica?
It was deep letter in response to the waterfront study. I just wanted to make sure that you guys were able to take a look.
Yes, that was from Brian Thompson.
Okay, great. Yes, it was. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Wanted to make sure you saw that.
Thank you.
I guess we've beaten that one to death. Sorry for the time.
Last phrase, yeah.
Last one is just the commission's interest in reviewing applications that deal with the upriver, so to speak. We've done this in the past, but I just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page. If perhaps you want to continue along with that as part of Diane Lawrencella's comment with regard to reviewing projects that deal with projects dealing upriver, which deals with the Norwalk River watershed, because eventually what flows into Norwalk River eventually has an effect on Norwalk Harbor. So I know we had a chance to review the Route 7 and
John, can I speak? I know that this is, I put the kibosh on having a special meeting about the Merit 7 interchange.
Yeah.
I'm a part of the advisory committee on that project. I've been doing that for almost 20 years now.
Oh, okay.
Which gives you an idea of it. But the fact is there was an EIA, environmental impact assessment done. But the reason for for that assessment was to help decide between one of three plans. There are three plans on the table for that interchange now.
Yeah.
One is no build, just don't do anything, just let it be. And there are two others. One is more of a full interchange where everybody stays moving, all the cars can move, and the other is more of a crossroads with stoplights and things like that.
Oh.
The EIA is intended just to help make that decision. So the design of this road is not going to start until they pick one of the alternatives and start doing drawings. All that really exists right now is kind of a yellow magic marker line on a aerial view. And so it's got a long way to go before there's really anything for us to look at in terms of.
So there was not really a formal application to really consider along those lines, because we've always addressed issues that dealt with, even for example, the Georgetown, some of the water treatment plants that was upstate with regard to their UV lights, effluent going into the harbor, as well as just.
And that's appropriate, but I don't think there's anything to really to look at this point.
We also commented on
point of view.
Aquarian.
And the environmental impact assessment kind of, in terms of a number of issues, said that the difference in impact was insignificant between the two alternatives. I think the state is now concerned that the most significant item is that, one project is twice the cost of the other. And I think that's what's driving that choice now. Jeff.
I just think we should be alert as to the opportunities to comment on these projects. The environmental impact evaluation, we missed the timing for that. It was too late. But the impact evaluation did show that the alternatives of building something would have significant more paved areas. And when they talked about reducing impacts, they didn't talk at all about the impacts of highway pollutants. They talked about dealing, when the time came, with increases to sedimentation and siltation above the existing impairment levels. But all that work we did on the Yankee Doodle Bridge to talk about the highway pollutants that come from automobiles, that I think we need to push that when we come to review those project plans, because that's going to affect the downstream. And the work, Alan, is on both sides of the Norwalk River. Goes right between if they do anything there. So I just say that we'll look out for when
they decide to build,
and hold the DOT accountable for what they agreed to do with the Yankee Doodle Bridge after all that work, which is to address highway pollutants and then the runoff into coastal water bodies.
Yeah. Well, they originally had a pushback on us. I think it was during when Alex Knopp was mayor. They had a pushback and they refused to do anything about it. And it was only probably about 7 or 8 years, maybe 10 years later, when they did revision of the I-95 bridge, that they went ahead with their plans, and which certainly go along with reducing 85% of the effluent going through culvert on land before it goes into the harbor.
The issue is the highway pollutants, not siltation and sedimentation. But thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
Sean, I think we should move along.
Yes, that's fine. So, well, that would certainly brings to our conclusion.
Thank you. Correspondence. I'm going to go through this very quickly. We received a letter from a gentleman named Alan Fishman asking why he can't tie his boat up to the Vantage Point condominium dock, which is something that I wasn't involved with, but many of you were, in terms of changing the federal channel, the federal anchorage in East Norwalk. And I've talked with Jeff a great deal about this, and I don't think I'm going to read this very lengthy letter. He says, I still own part of the dock, even though I've moved out of town, and I sold it to somebody, and I have a financial interest in it, and I'd like my new owner to be able to use the dock that he bought from me. I'm just going to say it is what it is, and cite the permit, because I don't think we really are able to open that discussion up at all. So if you're willing to show of hands for me to just do that, I'll be happy to do that. Hands?
Right.
You good with that? Okay. Chris, are you okay with that?
Well, what's for our edification? I don't need to debate it, but just why can't the person use the dock? Is it the beam of the boat? Is it
because the permit for the dock says that they can't. In other words, that's where the Vantage Point condominium built into the East Norwalk Channel, and we spent a lot of money was spent, a lot of time was spent, a lot of effort was spent.
So there's no docking at all. There's no permit docking at all permitted on that.
No, not there. And you can tie up to unload and so forth for a few minutes, but it's not. You can't dock a boat there. There's supposed to be signs that say no berthing here. It's all in the permit. So I think that's my intent is just to refer them back to the permit that they have to use their facility.
I mean, there was a north and south section that was on that dock that in some sections there was room to moor a vessel, and there's another sections not at all, because it was right on the federal channel line. So if you had a boat there, they were right in the channel. Yeah.
I will do that. That's everybody wants to do that. Anybody want to take a quick break or anything, or want to press on? No breaks with us. Good. Now I'm in trouble. I lost my earpiece. I have very little to report, other than I think that everything is going pretty well. I've mentioned Joe's being out of the hospital and Dennis's passing. I think it's time for us to also think about ideas for 2024. We're sort of at the end of our boating season, but we need to think about other ideas for the Harbor Commission, things we could do to make Lake Norwalk a better place from the harbor's point of view. And some of the things that I've thought about, and I'd like just you to think about these kinds of things. I thought that it would be useful to have some interns involved with the harbor master and the Marine Police Unit, and not hundreds of kids, but there are careers on the waterfront, and I think there are ways that we can encourage those things to happen through the schools, with the guidance counselors and so forth. That is something I'd like to see happen. We also need to really, I think that the utilization of our transit moorings this year, we seem to have covered our costs, and that's a good step. But I think there's a lot of demand that we're seeing to where we could increase the number of visitors if we invest in some more moorings and move forward with that. So those are my two ideas going forward, and I think I'll be quiet and let us move forward with our individual reports. Harbor Master Lavala. Uh-oh. You there, Bruce?
I'm here.
There you go. You're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be short. Busy month for August. Busy. We all know about the Amistad. I had several meetings with town officials, GNC Marine, Gary Wetmore, Amistad people, to try to get everything in place for the Amistad to come into the harbor. August 15th, August 6th, I got a call from the Sergeant Basigli about an illegal mooring that was coming from the property of 34 Shorefront Park. I guess some kids got entangled and it was like a clothesline from the bulkhead to the buoy, which was just submerged underwater, so you couldn't see it. That was removed. On the August 15th, I was contacted by Middlesex Construction Company. Sergeant Basigli and his crew were involved in a training exercise, and they couldn't help out with the construction company moving the barge back to its birthplace. So they asked if I can come down. I spent 3 hours with the harbor master boat blocking the boat traffic to help them put the boat and the barge back in place. Last week I was contacted by Maritime Rowing. They have a bunch of safety concerns. I met with them. And then again, they met with Deputy Harbor Master Owen Lee and Deputy Harbor Master Mike Vinci. They went over some safety precautions, what to do. One of their concerns is, they're coming down with these rowing shells, and they say, "Hey, we don't know what side of the bridge is closed." Well, send someone down there, or you get emails from the Walk Bridge info center. I send stuff out. Get on the VHF radio. So we're trying to figure that out. And I received 2 bills from Norm Edwards. One bill is for $1,306, $0. That was for time and material to put 2 train state moorings out by Sheffield Island. He didn't charge us for any of the mushrooms, just the chain and his time. And he gave me another bill because he was sent over to 34 Shorefront Park to pull that illegal mooring. I know Sergeant Basigli tried to make contact with the homeowner. I tried to make contact with the homeowner. And they just wouldn't respond to us. I know Amelia sent a letter to the homeowner. So I have a bill for $325. So I don't know who gets that. Do I send it to Amelia, or is that something that the commission pays and then gets reimbursed? And then last, I have $271 out of pocket. That's for boat fuel and materials that I had to do for the train state moorings, lines, and some shackles. That's it.
My 2 cents is that I think that the bill for pulling that mooring on Shorefront Park ought to get sent to the homeowner.
Agreed. So I don't know if I should fax that over to Amelia and she can send that to them, or do we take it upon ourselves to drop it off?
I would
there's
from Amelia.
Yeah, can I interject here? So there is a letter already. If we have a bill, we can send that to Amelia. Amelia can then go ahead and send that to the homeowner, because it does state that an illegal mooring it will be removed at the cost of the property owner or the mooring holder, whoever that is. So in this case, it's both. It's the property and the mooring belong to the mooring. The property owner own the mooring, I should say. As far as paying, was it Norm Edwards? I believe you said. If it's Norm Edwards, then the commission should pay Norm Edwards, and then the city needs to collect that money. We can't have Norm Edwards in as a middleman. We can't do that.
So you're saying send the bill to Amelia?
Send the bill to Amelia.
Gotcha. And what about
the commission can pay Norm?
Gotcha. And what about the bill?
That's my opinion. It's only an opinion.
Right. And the same goes as for the stuff for the train state moorings, or is that separate?
Correct. Nope. So we collect money for the transient moorings, and that money is to pay for upkeep and any costs associated with the transient moorings. It's not a fund that the commission can dip into type of thing.
And I just one other thing. I think the commission should think about if the harbor boat is going to be used to do any type of work or with the bridge. I think a rate should be addressed and something sent to the construction outfit for reimbursement for time and fuel maintenance. Well, I agree. Doesn't that go along same with a police officer manning a construction site on land? Isn't this probably the same policy or same concept here? I would think so.
Yeah, find out what rate that they charge, the harbor police charge for a manned vessel.
Okay.
So the marine unit, the overtime rate for extra work, it's about 73 and some change an hour for the per person for use of the boat.
Yeah. Do you charge for the use of the vessel too?
I have to look if that is included in the fees or not. I'm not entirely sure.
That should be paid by the DOT, is that correct?
By the contractor, yes.
Contractor, yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought you were putting your regular harbor master fuel bills in for reimbursement. Is that correct?
Correct. I was I think the last ones I sent to Amelia, and I'm going to do the same with these. Well, at least my out of pocket stuff. Isn't that shared jointly with the Shellfish Commission?
Gasoline?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maintenance of harbor master boat, isn't it?
Maintenance, yes. I don't think we've ever paid for fuel.
Oh, I see.
Well, neither has the Harbor Commission, actually. It was sort of taken care of by Pete LePac back in the day. Because the Marine Police Unit used that boat occasionally.
Yeah, right, correct. If they used it or they needed it, he would just replenish the fuel, but that shouldn't be on them now, you know.
No. And I've spent a great deal of time with purchasing, trying to figure out a way that we could get our have an account at Cove that was just like the Marine Police, and they were really unresponsive and unwilling to let us have that. So Bruce submits his receipts for use of the harbor boat to and is reimbursed personally. So he pays out of his own account and gets reimbursed for now.
Wow. Right.
Marine Max is also offering fuel now. Last year they stopped, but this year they offer fuel. So maybe approach Marine Max.
Alan, I have a question for Bruce before we move on.
Yes. Yeah.
Bruce, just for clarification for the minutes, at the August meeting, I know you weren't there, and Deputy Harbor Master Lee had mentioned 3 bills from Norm Edwards. I just want to make sure for the sake of the minutes that these are those and these are not new ones.
Yeah, the 2 bills are probably those, yes.
2. So 34 Shorefront Park, and then 2 moorings placed off of Sheffield. Yes.
Correct.
And then Owen Lee mentioned there were 2 abandoned moorings removed off of Marvin Beach, but that wasn't a bill submitted by
okay. That's
gotcha.
We kind of work hand in hand.
The third was the gentleman on that mooring, Bruce, the kid from the Bronx. That was the third payment of $400 and change that I mentioned.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he paid for it. Yeah, right. Ian, thank you. Thank you, Deputy Harbor Master Owen Lee.
Well said, Bruce. Any questions for Bruce?
No.
All right, Mr.
Alan, can I just make one little comment and statement?
Sure.
I got a letter from an Anastasia Fisher, who is the president of U.S. Harbors. And he sent me an email with regard to announcement of U.S. Harbors Harbor Master Day, which is going to be October 8th. And they plan to have, it's National Harbor Master Appreciation Day is coming soon. It's October 8th. He's got a flyer that illustrates some of the, I guess, festivities. And what he's going to do is that he's got a custom Harbor Master Day burgee to all harbor masters who are newly, I guess, newly profiled in the state. And he says, this effort on our part is purely educational, as we believe that the public doesn't fully understand the important role of harbor, dock, and port masters that play in keeping our harbors safe and vital. So I'll send that around to everyone. And so we'll try to keep that October 8th open to acknowledge certainly Deputy Harbor Master Owen, Mr. Vinci, and certainly our Harbor Master Bruce Lavallo.
Awesome.
All right. That's
maybe I'll get an ice cream cone.
There you go. Mr. Stedman.
If you indulge me, I just had a couple of comments to make with respect to Dennis. Thinking back over from 1987 when I started working for the city on this, and the wonderful friends that we've lost over that time who have been I'm not going to mention probably some of the members, but the commission chairs. John Lovejoy was the first chair, and his grandfather was Captain Lovejoy, the famous oysterman who sued the city in the 1920s because of the pollution from the Seaview Avenue dump, and that led to the city building the wastewater treatment plant. But John was the chair for the harbor management plan, the first plan, and all of these wonderful people were committed to serving the public interest. And many of you know Dave Donovan, and the dedication he put in, and we're at the ceremony when the boating center was named after him. Wish I knew what happened to the sign that was outside with his name on it, but that's another topic. And then Jack Callahan, we missed it. Jack had been away, and we didn't know that he had passed away several years ago. But when he got on the commission, his first job was to deal with the issues in the East Norwalk Basin that were raised a little while ago. And he visited all the property owners and the meetings. I still have some of his old notebooks to solve those issues in the East Norwalk Basin, which was the reason that the commission was established. And he took that on when he came on the committee. And Tony Mobilia and all that he contributed, and Nick DePalma, another wonderful guy that we lost. It was his idea for the Water Quality Committee, and he had which seems very, very simple idea now, but that pollution in the harbor wasn't the result of the wastewater treatment plant. It was from bacterial contamination running off through all the harbor storm drains. And prior to that, even DPW didn't have a map of all the harbor storm drains. And then we know what John Romano contributed. He left us too soon, and all of Dennis's contributions. The thing that sticks out in my mind is all of those people. They were all committed to serving the public interest. They didn't have any. It was just been a pleasure to work with them and learn. They all contributed something to the public interest in Norwalk Harbor, and now we've got to recognize appropriately Dennis's contribution. But anyway, I could go on about the harbor management stuff and the legislation and all that, but I'll stop on that. But thank you for the time to talk about this.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. It's very we really miss Dennis a great deal.
No question. The Harbor Commission has had a great legacy. There's no question about it. Yeah.
Sharon Bartish.
Thank you, Chairman Kibbe. Yeah, we'd like to echo those sentiments and wish our condolences to Dennis's family and friends at this difficult time. Dennis was a great Norwalker. He was a great man. Also, our get well to Joe Schneerlein. And those who don't know, he's been a mentor of mine for 41 years. And he's as biology as you could get for our area. So it's
Don't tell the wrestling stories, Steve.
No, I won't.
All right.
I'll stay away from those. 17 Sylvester. So as you heard earlier tonight, we recommended a site visit, and I take no pride of organizing that. So if someone from application review would like to throw out a couple of high tides, Shellfish Commission does have at least one retired member, so we could get together and do that such that we can put that one to bed. As far as the waterward side of 10 Harborview, thanks to Chairman Dr. Pinto for the opportunity to comment on that. And our only comment is that we agree with the resolutions of the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission in terms of that waterward project. Also, thanks to Harbor Master Lavallo for the no shell fishing signs that were put up in and around Vets Park. That's valuable, just considering some of the things he's seen personally this year. Also, a shout out to Commissioner McDonald and Committeewoman Laura Cella for their recent public comments with respect to the recent P&Z committee meetings. And I'd like to ask our sister commission members at the P&Z and the popular media. There have been a lot of negative letters, including from my commission, if you will, and this one, with respect to this proposed change in the zoning. I'd like to ask them if they have any positive letters from those who don't have a financial interest in this. It would be great to hear from them, and it'd be wonderful to read some Norwalker who might actually support this. Lastly, and Chairman Kibbe touched on this briefly, I just wanted to ask if there is going to be a State of the Harbor meeting this year, and if it will be in person. And last, I think the Shellfish Commission is considering reinvigorating our end of year festivities. So stay tuned on that as we get into the holiday season. And that's all I have.
I second that motion. Let's have a holiday party.
We need it.
Amen.
Thank you, Stephen.
Here, here, yeah.
I had the same thing I was going to bring up for new business, so that's maybe we could have a joint party. Thank you, Commissioner Bartosh. Mooring and harbor safety, Jeff.
Thank you, Commissioner Kibbe. So DOCWA, we had 23 completed reservations, resulting in about $2,200 so far. I always give them my number, and I get calls about I'm over in the East Basin, and is this where I tie up the dinghy? So even though I make it quite clear to go towards the drawbridge and the ramps, but so we'll work on that, make sure that it's a little bit clearer. Some of the reviews from the transient users, very nice town with lots of great ethnic restaurants, things to do, and convenient to the train. Another one, mooring was easy to find and plenty of room between boats. Another one, good location, good access to downtown and shoreline attractions. Another one, really enjoyed our stay in Norwalk. And another one, Harbor Master, was professional and helpful, would stay here next visit. So the interest is there, and that $2,200 was only from the 2 moorings that we have on the inner harbor. Those are the golden spots, the preferred spots, if you will. We do have the other moorings over at Sheffield Island in conjunction with Sheffield Island, Seaport Association. So we have all of those marked. So we're just going to continue working on that and promoting those. We do need to evaluate the locations in the inner harbor. I call it the inner harbor, so that we have additional moorings and some for deeper water. There are some vessels that come in that are 50 feet which are quite big. And if it
Yeah,
if it starts blowing, if it starts blowing, we the weight of that mushroom, those mushrooms that are in there, they probably need to get beefed up. So we need to manage that a little bit better. The managed fields, a letter is going to go out this winter with Amelia's help. We will state what the 50% is amount due. And so we're going to do that. So there's no surprise, and we're going to look at the review the penalties for late payment, and I'll ask for a meeting with corporate counsel for that. And besides what the harbor master stated, I don't have anything else to report, and there were no safety issues.
Thank you, Jeff. Bruce, you have your hand up.
I did, and Commissioner Bartush talked about it. I just a brief history. I saw people shell fishing off of Vets Park, and talking with Deputy Harbor Master Owen Lee. They get a lot of complaints, and we noticed that there was no signs anywhere in the park or even down the beach about no clamming. So I went to I just want to give a shout out to Ken Hughes, because I called him and he had those signs made, and he put there's going to be two probably down at Vets Park. One's already been installed, and the other one's going down by calf pasture, probably somewhere down by the Coast Guard station, because people go out in the sandbar and do some claiming where they're not supposed to. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald.
Yes, sir. Well, I'll start with treasurer. I don't have a lot to report because I neglected to get the monthly report from the city. And Jeff has given us the overall numbers from DOCWA just within the past month. Since the end of August, we've got $965 in from DOCWA. So it's, and that's all great news. It certainly looks like, and from his reporting, that business is picking up and starting to pay for itself. So that's terrific. And I know that Jeff Stedman got his well-deserved, well-earned check in August for the invoice that he submitted. Forward those invoices in from Norm and your own stuff, Bruce, and we'll get those processed for the city. For what do we call what's the other plan? Plans, the
recommendations.
Planned recommendations, that one. So the Amistad visit went off spectacularly. Great assistance from the harbor master, assistant harbor master, and the police unit to guide the vessel in and help get it docked. Of course, we cannot thank Gary and Charlie Wetmore at GNC Marine enough both for setting up the barge to dock it, and then for hosting it for a few days on the backside so that they could not have to move it during this as the storm came up the coast, which thankfully was more of a whimper here. But they rode it out at Gary's new property. What is that? On Water Street. So and I'm afraid I think they moved it early out of abundance of caution. And I think they're going to have to reschedule one day of the school trips because they weren't able to accommodate the kids on Friday because they moved the vessel. But otherwise, I think it was a great success during the Oyster Festival. The reception, the news conference, everything was terrific and very well received. And thanks to the support from Shore and Country and Norwalk Yacht Club, who co-sponsored a fundraiser for them. So all that was terrific. In terms of the street end study, So
Chris, I'm sorry, Chris, can I step, what was the attendance? What was the patronage? Any
I don't know. I
people in
haven't.
attendance?
I haven't gotten a debrief from them on like, how many people came through, like, for example, during the festival. I mean, they were
basically took advantage. It'd be interesting to see how many people took advantage of.
Yeah, you kind of had to know it was there because it isn't, and how it all worked. But I went on it during it and with my kids. I think it was and other people did, I know. And so yeah, I would be curious. We haven't had a debrief meeting about about how much, how they did, how much they get in the donation pot and all that kind of stuff.
It would be interesting, from a point of welcoming them, having them come back and, just future, what was the successes?
Well, I think, the school department, I think having the fundraiser, I think having it there for the Oyster Festival, I think that was great. There was a really good buzz about it. The schools were really happy with everything with the program that they presented to the school kids. Superintendent Estrella, I think, wants to have them back. So that hasn't been done officially, but it's they only brought 8th graders through, so they could theoretically, run the program every year. How we'll do that and how it'll work with the festival or the dock or a barge or however, we can't expect Gary to do this every time, but I think we could offer him the going rate for a barge, and I don't think that would. I think we could work that out. Those are all to be determined, to be seen. We have to. The school paid for most of it, and the festival paid the balance.
There was clearly a benefit, and certainly, certainly a benefit, and certainly recognition for Norwalk.
Yeah, and they did have some open house hours, and outside of the school visit hours, and so I'm not quite sure how all that went. I know they had to cancel one day. I mean, the Oyster Festival was shut down on Sunday basically anyway. So, I do want to have a debrief meeting with them. That has not happened yet to find out, their attendance numbers and all that. And I think they were very pleased in general to finally get to Norwalk. So,
thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
In terms of the street end, did you have a question about the Amistad? Oh, okay. In terms of the street end study, so I met with Jessica at the end of August, and they proposed that we roll our task in with a larger scope of harbor improvements that they plan on doing. And I asked Jeff Stedman to get feedback from the Port Authority about whether they would be amenable to the funds being used in that way. And I think they, I reread your email today, Jeff, and I'll just paraphrase you. And that was, they were amenable to it. They want to make sure that the funds can be tracked separately and segregated, at least to the degree that they can, I guess, correlate the funds extended to the scope produced, the work produced from a consultant, and that we would need to sort of formally request that it be done that way, or inform them that it be done that way. Not sure what. So I provided Jess with the scope of work I'd been working on when we were thinking about doing it separately, and that was only a week or two ago. So I see you're still on, Jess. If you want to join the conversation at this point, let us know where you stand on. I haven't gotten and there's no rush to get the RFP back, but I would like to review that before it goes out on the street, so that it's in line with our goals. And yeah, if you have anything to add at this point, Jessica.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Chris. So yeah, as Chris said, we met a couple weeks, well, probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and had a really great discussion. Chris has done a ton of work on the street ends and inventorying them, and also highlighting some of the 5 or 6 that might be worth more, a little bit of a deeper dive. And so I think, as everyone knows here, we put money into ARPA for a harbor strategic plan, which is not the management plan in any way, shape, or form. It's just a way to look at how the harbor is being used today from a recreational, commercial, and industrial standpoint, and also to be able to think about how to make recommendations on how the harbor could be better utilized moving forward, and thinking about how capital projects might be able to take place and how that 5-year capital budget from the city standpoint might be able to be utilized in some way to make those improvements. And we were thinking about transient boating facilities and a welcome center at Betts Park, but also transient moorings, and thinking about kind of the configuration of the moorings that are in the harbor now, and if we're getting the best utilization possible. So thinking about things like that, and what Chris and I had talked about was the work that he had did, and of course the funding that you had received from the Port Authority, and wrapping that all up in one. And I think we do have a draft RFP scope that I would love to share with the group and get feedback on. And I think you know, it's getting built out as we speak, and so I think it's ready for you folks to take a look at. But in that RFP draft, you'll see 2 very specific tasks that incorporate what had been proposed to the Port Authority for the $44,000 worth of work. And one of the things that we talked about was that the harbor strategic plan, again, not a management plan, but the harbor strategic plan has a funding amount of $125,000, along with the Port Authority grant, which is $44,000. So we were thinking that if we coupled the 2 of them together, that we might get a different level of consultant on board to be able to take on all of that work, as opposed to a smaller project that's only the $44,000. So we think that it might, if we marry the 2 of them, that it'll actually work out really well. And you know, just thanks to you folks and Chris for doing all the street ends work already, and hopefully if we can incorporate it in, then we were thinking that we might be even able to look at more street ends than 5 or 6 for a deep dive, just to be able to leverage the work that's going to go on through the strategic plan.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. So I think that dovetails with our work quite well, and I'll keep work. If I don't know if we need to take any action as a commission at this point, but you know, I'd like to proceed in this joint effort with economic development to do this. I think we'll get more bang for our buck. I think we'll get it'll be better to have a consultant working on a bigger scope than just you know, a small thing. I think that'll be more economical. So I'll continue on with that. The one I'll just mention is, and I think, and it may be a question that Jeff can help me with, that I believe I saw in the letter from the document we got from CT Port Authority that the money had to be expended by June 2024, which means we can't dawdle this forever. But there's certainly time to get that done. It's, you know, it doesn't take long to spend $44,000 with professional consultants, but you know, they have to produce and give us something to show for that, and bill us and rebuild the city. And I think the whole way that the city receives the money, we were working out with the DPW, and I don't know if that responsibility will shift to Jessica's agency. We can do that offline, but I think these are some of the things we have to sort out, you know, as part of the team here. Yeah, so I don't have anything else to say about that. If there's any questions, and I don't have anything to report about the other study going on is the Resilient Sono study, and they're going to have, I don't know if everybody got this. I got an email from, I think it was from Amelia, right? That there's going to be a walkthrough next week, and it sounded public. It didn't sound, I wasn't quite sure if it was public, if it was just for the members of the resiliency committee, but I think they're going to meet down on Water Street and then discuss on site, and then go to the library. And I might have childcare issues that night, so I don't know whether I'm going to be able to be there or not. But I don't know if anybody else is interested in seeing where that committee study is at. And I won't go back. I won't talk about what I talked about last time. There's nothing new in terms of their proposals about the corridors they want to create, and so yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Chris. I'd like to just recognize Chris for his real super contribution, really taking the lead on the Amistad visit. I think it was an awesome project, and without Chris's efforts, it just wouldn't have happened. So
Thank you.
I think we're all very grateful to the amount of time and effort you put into that. And related to that, I'd just like to ask if it would be appropriate for the commission to send Gary Wetmore a letter thanking him for his
Absolutely.
support with. I'll try to draft something and get it out. Just, I think, recognition is important when we're not really paying anybody to
Yeah.
thank them.
He
for
does a
their
lot of other
contribution.
stuff behind the scenes, so I think that'd be great, Alan.
Yeah.
So I'll send something from the commission, thanking him for his support for the Amistad visit. Gotta get that done tomorrow.
Yeah.
I did talk to, I don't know if Chris or Mike here. I know that Chris and Mike have been working together, getting a draft of what's going to be a fall newsletter together, but they've come a long way, and Chris was hoping he'd be able to get here. He got called out of town for a meeting in Boston, and he had a child event this afternoon that he was trying to get back to school for. So I'm not sure if he's between Boston and what function, but he intended to be here. And Joe's not available for water quality, and so I guess that brings us to the end of our rope. Laurie.
Alan, I'm just going to mention, just to add on what Chris was saying about the Resilient South Norwalk. So that's October 3rd. It is open to the public. It starts with a walking tour at 5 at the corner of Raymond and Day, and then I guess it moves over to the South Norwalk Library at 6:30. I'm out of town, but sounds interesting.
Thank you, Laurie.
It does. I get an email about that as well. So from Michelle, actually.
Oh, it's from Michelle, not from Amelia, right?
Right. I think.
Yeah, and Michelle's the coordinator for that.
No new business? I have no new business. Does anybody have any new business? Very well. Is there a motion?
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank
right.
you all very much for all your time. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Good night.
Thank you.
Yep.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Good night, Alan.
Good night, all.